is alumnus of the Center for Customs and Excise Studies and a member of the International Network of Customs University. Peter, the floor is yours. Remember, 15 minutes after 13 minutes, I give you to know that you have yet 2 minutes only.
Thank you, Professor. It's my pleasure today to address this forum, and also I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Whittleson and to Chairman Aliyev for their gracious hospitality for the invitation to come to Baku, and also my appreciation for the hard work and effort that the State Customs Committee has put into this event. Today I'd like to suggest how transnational crime might impact trade facilitation and how trade facilitation provides tools and resources that can be used to combat criminal activity. We'll take a look at opportunities and risks associated not only with the Bali Agreement, but with any trade facilitation agreement. I'll discuss elements of transnational crime, identifying principal factors that create opportunities for criminal enterprise. We'll consider how one party's weakness can become another party's opportunity. I'll touch on some of the challenges faced not only by least developed and developing countries, but by all countries. I'll also identify possible weak links and risks to the trade supply chain. We'll look at the importance of proper risk management controls and the customs risk management process. I'll highlight the importance of partnerships, both amongst customs administrations and between customs and the trade. And finally, I'll suggest some tools and resources that are available to any party interested in securing trade facilitation. The Bali Agreement is a significant accomplishment for the WTO, as it will greatly benefit developing and least developed countries by allowing easier and greater access to global markets. The WTO has stated that inefficiencies in customs and transport represent significant roadblocks for developing economies to integrate into the global economy. Further, administrative barriers hinder approximately 40% of the trade in manufactured goods amongst developing countries. That creates impediments to foreign investment and weakens export competitiveness. Bali includes a trade facilitation agreement intended to lower barriers to trade, to reduce government red tape, and to streamline customs processes. The agreement on trade facilitation is arguably the most important, most significant part of the Bali package. Its principal objectives are speeding up customs procedures, making trade easier, faster, and cheaper, providing clarity, efficiency, and transparency, reducing bureaucracy and corruption, and promoting technological advances. I'd like to focus briefly on Article 7 of the Trade Facilitation Agreement. Its objective, quite simply, is to facilitate the release and clearance of goods upon importation. Article 7 contains 9 key provisions listed on the screen that collectively contribute to facilitate the release and clearance of goods upon importation. These provisions may be implemented either individually or collectively by an administration, but once implemented, they can create tremendous opportunity, tremendous stimulus and benefit for the trade. These practices afford transparency and predictability for traders, importers, exporters, and transporters alike. Personally, coming from Canada, it's a source of pride that the Canada Border Services Agency has already successfully implemented each of these provisions. Now, I will also make a point, because I heard a comment earlier today, clarify that we actually implemented them not all at once, but incrementally. I'd also draw your attention to the 7th bullet, which is trade facilitation measures for authorized economic operators. This is a significant provision as it embodies the very essence of customs business partnerships, which we'll look at shortly. Bali opens the door to new opportunities for developing least developed countries. The provisions of Article 7 mirror existing WCO initiatives such as those promoted through the revised Kyoto Convention and the SAFE framework. Bali encourages and supports even broader implementation of such WCO initiatives, especially those that contribute to the expedited release and clearance of goods. These initiatives, to a degree, relax existing border controls in favor of programs such as authorized economic operators that place increased accountabilities on the trade. Although the AEO program is a model program that's intended to secure and facilitate trade while providing incentives that benefit both customs and traders, there are risks that must be recognized and mitigated. Chief amongst those risks are that relaxed border controls could potentially create opportunities for increased in criminal transnational crime. For the purpose of this discussion, transnational crime may be regarded as any violation of law that has effect across national borders, involves more than one country in its planning, execution, or impact, and that can be grouped into one of three broad categories: the provision of illicit goods, the provision of illicit services, or the infiltration of business and government. There are many factors that contribute to increased transnational crime. Whether involving the customs process or just in general, each of the factors that I've listed here has the potential to create an opportunity for criminal elements to infiltrate or corrupt the customs trade supply chain at any given point or time. In much the same manner as businesses and governments assess individual strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, criminal organizations do the same. One's weakness becomes another's opportunity. For example, weakness in legitimate business or government creates an opportunity for criminal organizations to take advantage of or take over that business. Criminal organizations will capitalize on a weak government to further destabilize it, thus reducing or eliminating government's ability to restrict criminal organizations' operational activities. Conversely, a criminal organization might insert operatives into a weak government to actually stabilize it, only for the purpose of advancing its criminal goals. Occasionally, in cases where the government feels threatened, those in power will exercise whatever means are at their disposal to remain in power, and that could include partnerships with criminal organizations to ensure the government's own survival. It's important to note that the final bullet, although true, is emphatically not restricted to destabilized governments. Rather, any government or any government official can become a target for corruption. It's commonly known that customs officers and similar frontline officials are particularly susceptible to corruption. These officials exercise considerable influence in regards to goods and persons entering, transiting, or departing a country, and accordingly become prime targets. This serves to underscore the importance of the Arusha Declaration, which seeks international commitment to improve integrity in customs. There are many factors that contribute to increased transnational crime. Whether involving the customs process or just in general, each of these factors has the potential to create an opportunity for criminality to infiltrate or corrupt the trade supply chain at any point in time. Sorry, I guess I'm going backwards here. My apologies. Developing countries will face many challenges as they move to facilitate their trade. Those that do not have secure infrastructures in place to protect the trade supply chain may face challenges not only from beyond their borders, but also from within their own organizations, within the government and within the bureaucracy. Challenges will arise due to competing priorities amongst government agencies, leading to competition for scarce resources. Sometimes that competition is intense and survival-based, and by that I mean managers will do anything to ensure the survival of their particular program over others. Criminal organizations that hold illegally derived funds, for example, proceeds of crime, will search for places to hide those funds, sometimes investing in or taking over legitimate business. Criminal organizations will also use the customs process to facilitate the laundering of money. I'm not going to speak any further on laundering of money because that's the subject of the next presenter. The same technology that governments and business use also provide opportunities for criminal organizations to advance their interests. Due to the profits that may be derived from criminal activities, organized criminal networks may have more advanced technological capabilities than most businesses and even some governments. As governments through their customs administrations move to develop new programs such as trusted traders, pressure is created on criminals to seek new methods or opportunities to move their goods. Therefore, it becomes crucial that such customs programs are followed through to their intended conclusion to ensure that no opportunities are created that criminal organizations might use to their advantage. The nature of an integrated supply chain creates challenges both for criminals and governments alike. The challenge for government is to ensure that each party of the trade chain is trustworthy and capable of protecting that aspect of the supply chain over which that party has control. The challenge for criminal organizations is to find a weak link in the trade supply chain that might be penetrated and controlled and taken advantage of accordingly. The supply chain is only as secure as its weakest link. In the context of terrorist threats to the critical infrastructure, Stephen Flynn remarked that the terrorist threat is displaced to where security controls are weakest. Flynn's observation would equally apply to the threat posed by transnational crime to the trade supply chain. Criminal organizations will seek out and exploit the weakest link to circumvent borders and to move illicit goods in, through, and out of countries. There could be any number of weak links in the supply chain. Key among them would be drivers, crew, warehouse personnel, or any person who has access to or control over the goods. The supply chain is unquestionably attractive to criminal organizations and is therefore susceptible to criminal infiltration. The same transportation system that moves legitimate people and trade is also used by criminal networks to smuggle humans, drugs, illicit goods, and proceeds of crime across national borders. In the 2013 Kroll Global Fraud Report, Mariana Vintiadis highlights the infiltration of the supply chain of legitimate business by organized crime throughout Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Vintiadis identifies the vulnerability of the transportation system, which provides the synergies for drug smuggling and other illegal activities. Conveyances and cargo can be compromised. Therefore, detection and protection of the system are critical factors to keep the trade supply chain secure. Detection and prevention against transnational crime certainly carries costs, and many fear that the costs associated with implementing trade facilitation commitments are too high. However, any such investment costs could be greatly outweighed by the benefits derived from Bali's trade facilitation agreement. In addition to more secure trade investment in trade facilitation is expected to result in a reduction of trade costs, increased competitiveness, improved job performance, job creation, improved income opportunities, economic growth, and reduction of poverty. Governments and businesses alike are exposed to risks throughout their continuum. Therefore, it's essential that sound risk management principles be applied to facilitate trade while concurrently countering the spread of transnational crime. The World Customs Organization defines risk management as a systematic application of management procedures and practices which provide customs with the necessary information to address movements or consignments which present a risk. The WCO also stresses the importance of automated risk management systems to identify potentially high-risk cargoes and conveyances, and for validating threat assessments and targeting decisions. The proper application of risk management principles within the customs environment offers distinct benefits to customs. Customs may allocate scarce resources to concentrate on unknown or potentially high-risk shipments, thereby creating increased efficiencies in the clearance for low-risk shipments. By analyzing the level of compliance related to individual traders or commodities, customs can identify those cases which require further scrutiny. The customs risk management process comprises 5 steps. Basically, establish the context, identify, analyze, assess, and prioritize risks, and address those risks. In addition, continuous monitoring, proper documentation, and consultation with all stakeholders are essential components to the customs risk management process. With vision and willingness, and by establishing meaningful partnerships, trade can be facilitated and transnational crime can certainly be challenged. I'm not saying it can be defeated, but it can be challenged, it can be displaced. In June 2005, the WCO adopted the SAFE framework. The SAFE framework provides overarching principles concerning security and facilitation of the global supply chain. There are 2 key pillars of the framework: customs-to-customs networks and customs-to-business partnerships. The customs-to-customs network provides an effective mechanism for securing the international supply chain against the effects of terrorism and other forms of transnational crime. Key tenets of networks are the use of advanced information, advanced electronic information to identify high-risk cargo and conveyances. and
Peter,
the use-
you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And the use of non-intrusive modern technology. I'd like to focus on the importance of the relationship of customs to business partnerships, which is best described by the following quotation from the WCO. To the extent that customs can rely on its partners in the trade community to evaluate and address threats to their own supply chain, the risk confronting customs is reduced. Therefore, companies that demonstrate a verifiable willingness to enhance supply chain security will benefit. Minimizing risk in this way helps customs in performing their security functions and in facilitating legitimate trade. And a principal program under Pillar 2 is that of the authorized economic operator that we've heard a lot about over the last day or two. Successful customs-to-business partnerships allow customs to do more with less, to develop and sustain long-term compliance. The partnerships provide significant benefits for business, including expedited release and clearance procedures. But to achieve a successful partnership, customs must know, understand, and trust its partners. And that relates to other customs administrations and also to the trade. Customs must be willing to relinquish some control and recognize the benefits that flow to customs through such partnerships. Customs-to-business partnerships are critical to the success of a government's agenda to facilitate trade within a secure network. The strength and trust of partnership between business and government yields incalculable benefits to both customs and the trade, while creating formidable challenges to criminal organizations, making it more difficult to infiltrate the supply chain and more costly to operate transnational criminal activities. In closing, I would just draw to your attention some of the many resources that are available to governments and to businesses that wish to invest in secure trade. Just very quickly, to facilitate trade, there are agreements that include technical and financial assistance. For example, WTO, Doha-Bali Agreement, the RKC from under WCO, WCO Safe Framework of Standards. Yesterday we heard an open invitation basically from the World Bank. There's opportunities there.
Peter, I am so sorry. Your time is over.
Well, I would like to thank you very much and welcome any questions.